You're going for what?
Hey, yeah, we're going for woke.
Because the system is broken and no, it's not a joke.
We're not here to brainwash or be choosing a side.
We're just two Asian guys here to open your eyes. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Going for Woke. My name is Calvin Chen.
My name is Aaron Pion.
We're two Asian guys here to open your eyes.
That's right. That's
Man,
right.
Aaron, today is going to be it's going to be a short conversation, but this is a crazy conversation that I just want to put on the table and start talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, coronavirus is happening right now, right? You got people, well, at least at first they were hoarding toilet paper, hand sanitizer, freaking dish soap. Unemployment's about to run out. On people, Congress can't get their act together, and social media is not even fun anymore. We're all at home, right? So maybe it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, let's go all take our anxieties online and just yell at each other or berate each other, make fun of each other for stuff that we think or whatnot. But I mean, are you noticing this, or am I? Is it just in my own head?
Yeah, no, that whole toilet paper thing, it reminds me of what Joe Rogan says. He says, because he was talking about gun ownership, right? Why he has a gun. I think he had a gun rights advocate on his show. And he was talking about how, with this pandemic and this stuff happening, you realize we're all living with this thin veneer of civilization that's ready to break down at a moment's notice. You see people hoarding toilet paper over basically wiping their ass. What do you think is going to happen if and when the food supply broke down? Or if anything else more dire happened, if and when people start getting evicted, right? Because that's also a
Isn't that
pending issue.
on the way or starting right now?
The eviction moratorium just ended. I think it just ended, and then they're working on extending it. But I've already been seeing things on social media about people talking about eviction notices from their landlords and that sort of thing. So it's happening.
That's crazy, dude, because all that's going on, right? And I keep thinking about this as far as what's going on for Americans, on a systemic level, a structural, right? Not up to you, not up to me. It's just kind of this it's kind of like song and dance that we all partake in.
Yeah.
And we're all individuals at the same time. And on an individual level, right, I know you have some research and data and stats to share on the systemic level, but on the personal level, I go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Which is just physical needs like food, water, shelter. And then you have physical safety, right? Safety so that you don't feel like wolves are going to attack you or your family, or even homeless people, or just or other people who are in really desperate situations. Those are safety needs. And you have needs of belonging, which all of us, there's less and less of a sense of belonging in America right now, right? Because we're having to socially distance from each other, but also just the rhetoric and the division in the country. And then you have self-esteem needs, and then you have self-actualization at the top, right? So the idea is that it's kind of hard to have your higher needs met if your lower needs are threatened right now. And a lot of Americans have their really basic foundational needs threatened right now. So it's kind of how are we supposed to innovate as a country? How are we supposed to navigate these complex, hard challenges that no one individual is going to be able to overcome, right? How are we going to be self-actualize or even feel good about ourselves, which when we don't, we get into all sorts of reactive fear-based behavior, right? If my physical needs, my safety needs or even like my belonging needs are not being met. And yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, again, like on the bell curve, not bragging, right? But like, but still, like, how am I supposed to feel good about that when I know that that's in the environment at the same time?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, dude. Like, I really worry about that. And then I guess in my mind, I just think, okay, that's this moment in time right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the trend over time been? Like,
Yeah.
what's kind of led to this point? Is this just like a freaking um like a fluke in time? I
Nah,
see you shaking your head.
yeah,
Damn it.
it's more like
Where is this going?
so it's funny. So I think what you talked about just right now, it's basically referring back to that reptilian brain we talked about in the last series, right? With Whitaker and Baxter, and all the fear-based programming, and how we react to our fears,
Hmm.
and because our survival is at risk. And back to your question, yeah, is this just a fluke or is this a long time coming? I think we want to start the series on economic inequality because we believe it's been a long time coming. So from 2000 to 2020, our suicide rates have gone up by 33% for Americans. And that 33%, when you start digging into the numbers, it's mostly economically driven. It's much higher amongst high school graduates than it is amongst college graduates. Um, it's much higher. It's particularly high within the Rust Belt, those towns where a lot of manufacturing jobs either got automated or got sent overseas and then ended up swinging from Obama to Trump. Um, and so yeah, you see that sort of trend happening on that front.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, we got, the median income has been shrinking since 2000, include for all three tiers, by the way, for upper, middle, and lower tier income classes. Like, all three of them have been going down from
The
2000 to now.
median income for even like the top tier of
Right,
earners has been shrinking.
right,
Wait, hold on. But but the but the top 1% or whatever you want to call them, right?
right.
Like they're making more and more and more money.
Oh yeah,
Oh, but it's
absolutely.
median. But it's median, so it's not
Right.
average.
It's not
It's kind of
average.
like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and just a quick note, like, yeah, we always want to stick with median as opposed to average, right? Because if you stick three people in a room and one person was worth $1 and one person was worth $2, and then you stick Jeff Bezos in there or someone worth like $100 billion,
You could say that room is worth like
an
whatever on
average
average.
average of $33 billion, but the median is that $1,
So the
right?
median, so like the extreme far side of the top income earners are like raking it in, but still, like,
Yeah.
by and large, the top third has still been shrinking.
Right, right. So
Okay.
upper, middle, and lower income tiers, all of their median incomes have been going down. So we got that going on, and this is just an overall trend of things that have been going on. Like back in the 1940s, there was a 90% chance that children would earn more than their parents. Guess what it is today, Calvin?
Not as good as 90.
It's like
Like,
50 or lower. 50% or lower. So now it's a coin flip, like whether the kids are gonna do better than their parents or not.
hmm. So that's like what, like social mobility then
Yeah, social
in America.
mobility and just what is it? I guess optimism, right? The sense that
Yeah.
things are getting better and like it actually happening. But
Hmm.
yeah, as we can see, it's not. And as we can see by the increase in suicide rates, for example, like if you think about those particular Rust Belt towns. You got people whose parents and grandparents might have worked at a unionized job at a factory, right? Earned a nice living, was able to pay for their house and all that. And now the grandkids are doing worse off than the grandparents, and thus you see kind of like um, that pessimism, coming
Man,
from
like,
those areas.
hold on. So suicide is going up, optimism, social mobility, just the chances of you doing your parents going down, median income in all three brackets is going down, shrinking.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So I mean that I guess so I I guess that kind of puts a context to, like, now you have this pandemic hit, coronavirus, like why
yeah,
all this scarcity, like we've been kind of like slowly, like the heat on scarcity has been slowly like turning up,
mm-hmm,
right? And that's
mm-hmm,
right, like that sort of how do you cook a frog analogy, by like turning up the heat slowly, slower and slower, so to just jump out.
yeah.
You shared something really interesting with me this one time where it was something along the lines of like all protests or like overthrow of government or popular uprising had to do with
Economic inequality.
economic inequality,
Yeah,
economic sort of despair or something.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you think about like the French Revolution, right? You think about, I mean, even right now, you see the Hong Kong protests, the Yellow Vest protests, the protests in Chile. All of these are like, for example, let's take the Yellow Vest example. That was
Hmm.
created by a slight increase in gas taxes, right? And so that was like the straw that broke the camel's back and caused people to revolt. In Hong Kong, like it's the most expensive city to live in the world, I believe. And you got, like, I saw this picture of like three people are cramped in this
Yeah.
70-foot apartment where like they sleep on like a triple bunk and
Hmm.
stuff. So that's Hong Kong. And it's like, even if you're college educated, it's incredibly difficult to get ahead. And so, when this political thing with China happened, it seems like that was also like just the straw that broke the camel's back. you know like, same thing with Chile, like they raised their subway fares by a little bit, and then all the people came out to revolt. um
I think there was something similar in Brazil, like right around like the time when they were gonna have the Olympics there or something. I think it was like 1 or 2 years previous to that. They raised fares on the subway or something, and people were just like out in the streets
yeah,
protesting,
I believe that.
raising a ruckus about it.
Yeah, and what you realize is like these things don't happen in a vacuum. It's all been a long time coming, you know and you think about like, y- and so that like it's to the point that just a little something just kind of throws the whole thing off.
Wait, hold on. When you say it's been a long time coming, it doesn't happen. Are you okay? Hold on. It's been a long time because of the economic inequality and because of the economic sort of like destabilization. Is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah.
because of what the conditions we just described before that have been happening for, decades, right? I
Hmm.
think that's kind of what sparks people. I mean, you think about, for example, like the Great Depression era, and that's when the Communist Party was actually starting to get more popular within the United States. But around that time, like the Roaring Twenties, there was, of great inequality around the world. That's what sparked like the communist revolutions around that time, right?
Hmm.
You think about all the countries. So it's it's yeah, basically it's exactly what you're saying. All of these revolutions, these bloody uprisings and stuff, a lot of it comes from this sort of economic despair. And that's why we do need to talk about this and take it seriously.
Yeah, especially right now in America, I think it's not just an economic, like you just, I feel like America in the last I I don't know if it's just because I was like too young to notice or recognize back
Hmm.
then,
Hmm.
right? But I feel like America, around the time of like Obama's presidency, you had like the Tea Party and just like the freaking vitriol and like the BS that they would like try to bring up about this man. You know what I mean? It was like
Hmm.
it's something that like I had never. They never talked about that in like U.S. history, AP. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just like yeah, like they argued and whatever, and then they voted. You know, but like
Yeah.
this is quite different, and I feel like particularly like that sort of like vitriol has been like ramping up lately. So like there's that. I wonder how much of that is actually because of the economic inequality. But you're saying that that's been happening. The turn in economic inequality has been happening since like 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and so now we have a situation where it seems like the economic inequality is getting even worse, and like it's just gonna like pick up steam, right? Like Andrew Yang was talking about how the pandemic really sped up this sort of like the need for businesses to
Hmm.
find solutions in automation and all that, which leaves a lot more people to
Yeah.
fend for themselves in a way. So that's just gonna like widen the gap even more.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that when you are just persistently pestered by thoughts of how am I going to pay the bills, I don't know, that sort of economic uncertainty, it lowers your functional IQ,
Yeah.
not your native IQ, but your functional IQ that you're able to make rational decisions with, uh, by like a standard deviation or something.
Yeah. I think it's something like close to 40%, and that was proven by a Princeton study.
Wait, is it 40% or 40 points? I guess for
Maybe 40 points.
maybe for a lot of people 40% is 40 points. I don't know. I'm just yeah, that's neither here nor there, but like that's substantial.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it
very
is
substantial.
substantial. And so oh yeah, it is 40%. It lowers the IQ. So yeah, and that makes sense. It's like you're busy trying to survive. Like, what are the chances you're gonna think things through long term and rationally?
Hmm.
And that's also, it's what Andrew Yang brought up, was it makes people more susceptible to bad ideas such as racism. Like, hey, it's the immigrants who are taking your jobs. That sort of rhetoric that we saw
Hmm.
play out.
Or even bad ideas like, hey, like your neighbor's the problem, like your fellow American is the problem,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
their problem is not even your problem. That's
Yeah.
their problem. I feel like that's such a destructive and yet seemingly factual idea, right? Um, but yeah, I just see us as a country in such a precarious spot. And yeah, I don't want to be all doomsday and sound the alarm or whatever, right? Like a lot of
Hmm.
our friends are doing pretty well and stuff. But like, I mean, even like you and your wife, you're double income household, right?
Yeah.
Um, Double income household, both of you are college educated, you're doing pretty well, you live in an awesome apartment in Koreatown and whatnot, and you sold your car just
Yeah.
because you were kind of like, oh, what's going on in the future and stuff. And like,
Hmm.
like for me, like I've been considering buying a gun. Just I don't want to own a gun, but like I've been considering. Gun sales are just like up, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that it's important to balance this sort of anxiety or tension. I think it's first of all important to like acknowledge it. We don't want to like fester in it, marinate in it, identify
Right.
with it, make decisions based on it.
Right.
That kind of like perpetuates it. But I think it's important to like acknowledge it and understand what it is, and kind of like hold the vision for where we want to go exactly as a country. And I imagine that where we want to go as a country is, if not the complete opposite, quite a wide deviation from where things are going right now, which is going to
Yeah.
be up to like the individual to make decisions for themselves, but also up to us as a collective for like what do we demand, and how do we come together, and what do we vote for, um and like how do we treat each other, Like, what sort of culture do we want to create between each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have things from like the inside trying to that's like ripping us apart. But then also, let's not forget, even if the president did not collude with Russia, for example, there are foreign forces looking for things like this to divide us from the outside.
Yeah, because there's the whole global economics perspective
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
going on. So yeah.
Yeah, like right now, I don't have any answers for all of this, but I think that if anything, we have a lot more questions that we want to explore about this going forward, just to
Yeah.
understand like the historical trends, where is this going, and hopefully we can get around. No, not hopefully, we're going to talk about. All right, well, and this is going to take some research, but like, what can we do? What can be done? Because this is not a doomsday podcast. This is going for woke. Why do we want to go for woke? So that we can understand what's going on, so that we can understand like where we want to go. Awareness is unifying, and we want to make things happen in this country for the better.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're gonna try to. This is a pretty complex topic as we started diving into it, because there's income inequality, but then there's the wealth gap, and then there's the racial wealth gap, and then there's like what are the effects of economic inequality on our democracy and our society. There's just so many different branches that we want to be woke about before we even like start looking into solutions and stuff. So we're gonna do our best to keep it under 20 episodes. but
that's your warning, or maybe that's your thing to look forward to.
yeah. So I think every conversation we have, we're gonna try to do a little bite-sized chunk, and then leave you guys with some thoughts. But we'd also love to hear from you guys. Like, we got an email address, sup@goingforwoke.com. That's S.
So tell us what's up.
Yes,
SUP
@goingforwoke.com. So
@goingforwoke.com.
If you got any thoughts or questions about it too that you'd love for us to discuss, just shoot us an email. But yeah, we're gonna try to do these bite-sized conversations and all go for woke together.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and even right, like when we talked about healthcare last time, why is healthcare a problem? Meaning, like, functionally it works. Well, it makes a lot of people poor.
Yeah.
And a lot of poor people can't access it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. It's just kind of like threatening all these like really foundational needs for Americans, and we deserve better.
Yeah.
And I want better for all of us. So here we go. That's why we're talking about it. Thank you so much. Till next time, stay going for woke. That's what we're gonna do. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. If you like getting woke with us, then subscribe now and give us a 5-star rating. And if at any point you thought, I wish more people heard this, you can spread the word by sharing this podcast with them. We appreciate it. Until then, keep your eyes, your ears, and your hearts open, everybody. We're out for now.